with DBJ, and welcome to the Day of Wolves. Yes, your party for 3 days has been hearing the sounds, the the evidence of wolves gathering. On the horizon, you see them silhouetted against the moon, howling, barking, growling. But today you've arrived in a small town, and the people there gather together, talking about the preparations for the Day of Wolves. They're scared, they're frightened, they're nervous, and yet on the outskirts of this town, many of the people are excited. This is the Day of Wolves. Now, what does the Day of Wolves mean in our fantasy role playing games? I don't know, but we're going to talk about it. So let's roll the intro. All right. Now, if I could quote the late, great rap artist DMX as concerns this Day of the Wolves, what? What the deal, right? If we could, what is the deal with the Day of Wolves? What are we going to talk about today? Well, we will absolutely talk about canines and wolves and that element, but we're also going to take as the Day of series progresses, we're also going to like dissect what it means to um, be a part of this concept. So, for your setting, if wolves aren't really a thing in your setting, but the concept of what what do wolves represent within your world in terms of social interactions, maybe political, even some dangers, and we're going to get into some creative elements too. And the unsung hero of your big bads that really encompasses the idea of the pack of wolves, if you will, that I think is unsung. I think it's kind of in the middle of the big bad evil guy and the minions, and it's somewhere in the middle. We'll get into it. But for right now, uh, what the heck is the Day of series about? Well, the Day of series is about us taking. Sure, George did to say that. Yeah, did I say make it political? Absolutely, absolutely. We'll get into it. Um, the idea of the Day of series is that this is a creative endeavor for us to sit back and take a prompt and kind of dissect it and have some fun with it, especially if you're stuck being creative, and look at it from its base level. We're really going to talk about canines. We will, and using it as a method of social interactions, like maybe the Day of Wolves represents um, family dynamics and how people who are family, whether they are blood or not, relate to each other. And also, the Day of series could be something you can introduce into your setting. A celestial day that happens, and a way for you to bring some creativity to your world. Throw a monkey wrench, basically, for your players to have them engage in a celebratory event, or maybe something a little bit horrific as well when a day approaches. And also, it's a good excuse for us to have some kind of dangers and encounters that are foreshadowed by using this concept, the day of. So, the Day of Wolves, what does this represent? Well, on a base level, there could really be wolves, and this is an opportunity for us to rip and take and learn from and use everything we know about canines in general, both fantasy and mundane. Of course, of course, I have an article up here in Wikipedia about wolves and what they represent, and how they are used within our society and such like that. And here's some things that I think we can pull from, along with the flavor of having wolves as well. So, the idea of wolves howling to the moon, their tracks, their scent, the fear that mundane society has of a pack of wolves and being surrounded by them or even being followed by them. We also have a lot of movies and television. Dances with Wolves is the first one that comes to my mind about the idea. And there's another movie called The Gray that's an excellent example of using wolves to tell a story and how it parallels our own journeys as humanity. But one of the most important things I think from wolves that we can find before we get into the type of wolves and what they represent is the social structure of wolves. So the wolf is a social animal. Its population consists of packs and lone wolves, most lone wolves being temporarily alone while they disperse from packs to form their own or join another one. The basic social unit is the nuclear family, and this is important here, consisting of a mated pair accompanied by their offspring. The average pack size in North America is 8 wolves, and in Europe 5.5 wolves, and that's an average. The average pack across Eurasia consists of a family of 8 wolves, such as 2 adults, juveniles, and yearlings, or sometimes 2 or 3 such families, with examples of exceptionally large packs consisting of up to 42 wolves being known. Typically, offspring stay in the pack for 10 to 54 months before dispersing. Triggers for dispersal include the onset of sexual maturity and competition within the pack for food. And food could be represented by a lot of other things, right? Treasure, gold, power, influence, status, that kind of thing. If they are non-animalistic, although humanity can be pretty animalistic when it comes to things like this. The distance traveled by dispersing wolves varies widely. Some stay in the vicinity of the parental group, while others individually may travel great distances of up to 206 kilometers or 128 miles. That's highly specific. And a new pack is usually formed or founded by an unrelated dispersing male and female, traveling together in search of an area devoid of other hostile packs. And lastly, wolves are territorial and generally establish territories far larger than they require to survive, assuring a steady supply of prey. Territory size depends largely on the amount of prey available and the age of the pack's pups. And this is the thing that I think we could really draw from here in terms of, oh, seriously there, Harry? Seriously? All right. Let's see what this says. It says allow me to press. It won't let me. I know why it's not letting me do it, because I'm using a streaming service that pulls both for YouTube and Twitch stuff. So I really appreciate the super chat. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Harry, the only person on the internet older than this little grognard right here. Yeah. Shai says the themes you delve into in the Day of series can also be used for non-RPG materials, like song lyrics. Hells yeah. Hell yeah, why not? Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, yeah, it won't let me do it. Okay, so the idea of the pack, I think, is an unsung hero when it comes to creating our adversaries for our world. So normally, we have 2 categories for our bad guys. We have the proverbial big bad evil guy, right? The dragon, the lich, the wizard, the vampire lord, and they rule individually over everything. The demon lord, the devil ruler, and then we also have the horde, the evil horde, the horde of minions, the army, the barbaric tribe. But right there in the middle, and I think the unsung hero here is the wolf pack. It is the the family, air quotes family, whether they are by blood or not, that gathers together for their evil, or rather adversarial exploits. It's vampire lord whose consort is also a mummy, but then they've been alive for so long that one of their offspring, who's a great great grandchild, has studied magic and become an ancient lich, and then that person recruits members of their family and they become soldiers, and there's this like weird family dynamic brought together. Oftentimes in a very mundane setting, this could be like a banditry tribe, right? These are bandits where um, the bandit lord has gathered together. I don't know, is a pickpocket and gathered together children, and they become kind of a family unit of sorts. Pirates fall into this category, oftentimes with it's piracy, but within the pirate group social order, it's they're devoted to each other. It's like a family of sorts. Now, of course, this could be cast out nobles who've engaged in dark magics. This could be again, a family group that's lived out in the wild, and they're being forced out of their homes by the ever growing technological and societal people that are pushing them out of their natural habitat and things of that nature. Oh, thanks, dear Shai. It's not necessary, and I do really appreciate it. Harry's sending me some coffee because at this time of morning here on in the Ohio Valley, it's 6 in the morning plus, right? So I get a cup of coffee, so I really appreciate it, there, Harry. I'll place you back up here again, just because you shouted out to me, so I'm going to shout out to you. But coming back into our canine family, this is an opportunity for us to, like I said, this day of series is, hey, why don't we start to grab some of these things? Maybe they're kind of disparate, and we can kind of put them together and use them because maybe we haven't thought about them for a long time. So in classic fantasy, I'm talking about D20 fantasy, we have ourselves wolves, dire wolves, jackals. I understand that hyenas aren't technically in the canine family, but that's I actually had a big argument against someone who scientifically was very interested in this kind of thing, and I was just saying like, well, yes, but in fantasy, lupines don't need to fit into a scientific category, right? So we can pull from them, and then we have what blink dogs, death's head dogs, of course, dire wolves, wargs, hellhounds, winter wolves, and we don't need to stop at hellhounds and winter wolves if you want to do a parallel between them and oh them and dragons, right? I mean, if you have fire breathing canines and cold and frost and cryo breathing canines, we don't have to stop there. They could spit out poisonous gases and acids and electricity if you want to, and all these kind of things. Adapt them to any environment that you want. And also, we can absolutely positively wrap around them other circumstances. I kind of feel like the dire condition, I mean, the dire nomenclature is a condition. Like a dire bear is one like a feral, diseased, enraged, I would dare say, air quotes, evil in a natural habitat kind of way, something that can't be reasoned with. Please continue their comment. Hey, Mike Marin, please continue your comment if you have one. So this again, this day of wolves. Maybe there's a population. Oh yeah, okay. So Marin says wolves don't have hands. Yes, that's right. Because I was about to say gnolls. um, not jackals. My brain's going. Yeah. Anyway, Mike's Marin says wolves don't have hands, so you can imagine most of their magical mediums would be somatic rather than material. Somatic and I dare say verbal, maybe. You can expect a lot of breath attacks or wolf howling, sonic attacks. The nature's own version of bardic and sound emanations. The howls create fear or nightmares or illusory kind of things. You hear the sound and it makes your own fears come alive. Um, they are you hear the sounds and it comes from the east, but they're really in the west. It makes it sound like there's more of them than there really are. That kind of thing. Yeah, maybe they breathe out the very fog that they're hiding in, or something. Their very presence brings it about. Absolutely, absolutely. And if we follow along White Wolf's Werewolf the Apocalypse and Werewolf the Forsaken, there is a kind of runic language where they scar trees using their claws, and different patterns of claws, vertical, horizontal, diagonal, crossing those claws, blah, 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 actually has their own language. Yeah, call their howling. Yeah, there you go, Mike. Yeah, M Squares is call their howling magic wolf song and you're good to go. Hell yeah. And who's to say that mixing this with the player characters, that bards, druids, rangers, hell, even clerics and such, that there is something primal, but they can learn from. They can hear the mundane people, all they hear are the howl of the wolves, and they close their doors and bring the young ones in because of the day of wolves. But the player characters are able to go out. They're brave enough and inquisitive enough and sensitive enough to hear the nuances that are being created. And are the wolves calling a moot where they're gathering the canines from across the land to gather together? And of course, we can't forget werewolves, right? Different types and kinds and bloodlines of werewolves. People transformed into werewolves because they've been bitten and gained a lycanthropic disease, to families that are born with this, and they know when puberty comes, when they come of age, they can smell it and they come into town to gather their own, and air quotes, stealing the children of others or something. Yeah, right. Shai says, can we go off on a tangent about the Dream Wolf and within the Ring of Fire and the Beast of, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Gavalden? Or it could be Javodan. Um, I Unfortunately, I don't remember this part. And I'm pretty good about remembering details about Within the Ring of Fire. But yeah, yeah. Mike Mayer says, great inspiration already for me to steal. Probably totally dragged you off agenda. That's what we do here. We are here. Squirrel. That's what we do on this show. We get a tangent, and like the pup from Up, sometimes there's a squirrel that runs by, and we go off with a divergent plane of thought. So, and I apologize for not remembering who brought this up, but someone mentioned the opposite of the werewolf. Normally, we think of werewolves as human beings who are afflicted with lycanthropy, and they turn into a werewolf. But what if the Day of Wolves has a wolf that becomes human? This would be a good story plot where a fully grown human being is really um, birthed into the world because they were a wolf who maybe they wandered too close to humanity, and they've been pushed out of the pack, or during certain celestial events, the druids know that at least one of them, yeah, skinwalkers, yeah, at least one of them comes about into into civilization, and born anew, naked, not knowing the language, needing help, needing protection or education. They come into the world, and what a great origin for maybe an NPC or a player character that's like, no, my character, I might write down on my character barbarian or druid or something like that, but my wild shape came about from a curse or a celestial event, or simply just a desire to want to be near humanity or something. Maybe the lone wolf was raised as a pup, fed by humanity, and the other wolves were, speaking in their own language, was like, "Ha, you smell of human, get out." And they're like, "You're going to be kicked over to them, and then they're like, "You see, you all see." And then on the Day of Wolves, it beseeches uh, the demigods of nature to bring them, to let them walk on two legs, and the deity of nature comes to them and says, speaks to the lone pup and is like, "You will lose your fur. You will smell like human." Shai says, "I don't know how to pronounce it either, but the second thing you said was right. The beast of uh, Grivalden was from the film Brotherhood of the Wolf." Oh man, brother, Brotherhood of the Wolf. Listen, unsung hero of a great action movie, mystery, dare I say, heist kind of revenge movie. Brotherhood of the Wolf, good movie. Great movie, yeah. And Skinwalkers, yeah. I mean, we could pull, and listen, there's a lot of other beast nature aside things that I think fit into this category. I'm thinking of Yetis and beast men and things of that nature where they can be reformed, reused, repurposed, reflavored as powerful canines. And who's to say that there aren't the air quotes evil druids, the druidic nature that somehow someone um, is able to beseech the powers of nature to give. That's how their magic comes about. They can transform themselves. They have control over a pack of wolves. They can bring out the bestial nature of humanity. So the Day of Wolves doesn't necessarily mean there are dangers outside, but let's stick with this. Let's give this a little bit of a mechanical feature, shall we? So a lot of um, gamers like ourselves have this idea that like rolling random encounters is kind of, doesn't really fit into their um, their mindset. Why would I roll a random encounter when I know what's going to happen next? And this Day of series, today being the Day of Wolves, what a great opportunity to throw in a monkey wrench when the player characters are starting to have these encounters. Maybe the players encounter orc bandits on the road, and elf archer, excellent, boom, puts an arrow through the eye of an orc, and then all of a sudden, out of the distance, a d4 gets rolled. The d4 die roller gets clicked, and rolled a 3. Hey, that orc that you just killed, its body gets ravaged by 3 dire wolves that run out of the woods and start chowing on its body. And the PCs are like, "Ooh." And what does that tell you? A, that maybe if one or more of the player characters goes down, they might be attacked by dire wolves or things that are bigger or more dangerous out there in the wild. B, it may mean that, hey, like 5th edition, we have death saves. Maybe those death saves aren't going to be as much of a protection as you think, as the wolves go chowing down on your body and you fail those death saves because you're being chewed to death, and your other player characters are like, "No, just drop to 0. I'll let, heal you back up." But no, not a big deal, because if every person that drops 1d4 more dire wolves starts coming in, then all of a sudden it's 3 dire wolves, and now there's 7. Oh, guess what? Now there's 10. Oh, now there's 12. I mean, so this kind of escalation, this tension in the background, I think would be pretty cool to play with. That's just a single idea. Not to mention that maybe there's a couple of NPCs or more that are, let's say they're punk asses, right? The player characters can smack them around, they don't care. But on the Day of Wolves, when they're surrounded by a pack and the PCs go to smack one of their NPCs in the back of the head to get some information or bribery, you know what I mean? Some casual threatening that the player characters like to do. Now the NPC is like, "Okay, you want to talk to me like that? Let's see you do that." Where there's dire wolves, 2 wargs, and a werewolf or 2 backing them up as a bodyguard or something, right? Shai says, one theory was that the real life beast of I'm going to pronounce it this time, Javalden, might have been a hyena imported from Africa by some noble. Yes, the Brotherhood of the Wolf movie was loosely based on real life events, air quotes, and that there was a beast that was brought back that people couldn't describe. And the way it was even portrayed in the movie, I could see it being a hyena. But anyway, so Shice goes on to say, who ended up letting it go into the wild when it grew too big. And that hunched back, the shoulders being above the neck, the sound that hyenas make, that laughing, it's not real laughing, but we consider it that way, is a little bit like it's unnerving. That's why they always have, or many times have had, the comic book character, the Joker, having hyenas because of that laugh. And that, it's like, oh, here's the laugh, and now we're dead, right? Mike Marin says, what other wolf-based environmental hazards might we see? Ooh, challenge accepted. Okay, so what I love about environmental challenges, side note, is that it's like it's literally the third pillar, and it makes a triangle of interaction. So you have your player characters, your protagonists, you have your antagonists, monsters, and all that kind of stuff. And then you have this third element, which might be the environment. It could be muddy, sandy, windy, flooded. It may be cold, hot. It could be crumbling. It could be on fire, and all those things. And we know that hyenas, jackals, all kinds of wolves, canines, and things of that nature, we know that we know that they are predatory and use the environment to their benefit. And I think a very simple thing would be that wolves and canines can move in dense foliage and areas that human beings can't. I think having them use jungle, rainforest, dense, uh, non tropical forestry. I don't know what a regular forest looks like. But anyway, having them navigate around a dense foliage. Now, of course, in 5th edition, they basically default to using difficult terrain, which, in my humble opinion, is kind of boring. It's useful, but it's also boring. But we can start there. It's dense foliage. It halves your movement essentially, although the math is a little bit different because it costs 2 feet of movement for every foot of movement you want to move, which is a little bit different than having it. But also, we can have some other effects with dense foliage if we just want to go with that. And that is the fact of those long weapons, those two-handed bladed weapons, long pikes and spears. Maybe, just maybe, it's difficult or it may be nearly impossible to use these long weapons in a dense area where to take a 12-foot pike through the woods is not necessarily an easy thing to do. Or a spear, although spears are actually pretty damn useful. Those spears might not be as useful as the player characters may think. And also visual distances. So when you go into dense areas, forests, rainforests, jungles, swamps, other overgrown areas, and it doesn't need to be overgrown because we're going to talk about deserts, we're going to talk about rocky terrain in a minute, but sight lines could also be cut off. So sight lines might be a hazard as well, because lots of magic requires you to see your opponent or your allies. Now, there are some magics where you only need to know where they are. A fellow a party member that gets a pack attacked by 3 or 4 dire wolves around the corner of a very large tree or a dense area could be attacked, and the healing cleric or healing player or whatever knows they're there but can't get to them because it's difficult to get there and they can't see them, even though they can hear their friend's body being torn limb from limb, which is this other idea about pack tactics as well. We know wolves have pack tactics. It's a very common thing for them to have, but also maybe on the Day of Wolves, pack tactics becomes the norm instead of the exception when the player characters are attacked by things that are non-canine. When they get attacked by bandits on the road, pack tactics is what they use. When they are attacked by ravagers, yeah, maybe the city guard The Day of Wolves, even the city guard doesn't realize it, but when the player characters go to steal something in the bazaar, hey, it's Pile on the Rabbit. And it's like, what pack tactics? Damn. And again, the foreshadowing on this idea using the day of. So kind of like it. Also, wolves will use, wolf packs will use the terrain to force their prey into the most disadvantaged location. So if the player characters want to run from the unknown number of dire wolves behind them, maybe they push them to a raging river, and the player characters are now standing on the banks of a river, and it's like, do we go? The river's behind us. Do we go into the river? And you, as the game master, dungeon master, storyteller, flame tender, warden, could tell the player characters like, okay, you can go in there, but the river's flowing with a strength of 15, and you're going to have to roll a challenge against it, or you're going to get pulled down the river. And, oh, guess what? By the way, you guys have all that gold on you. You're at disadvantage. You're encumbered. So trying to swim across the other side is difficult. But also, you just hear howls from coming around you, and one of them's like, well, how many wolves are there? And it's like, you don't know. 20, 30, 50, right? Shai says the within the Ring of Fire idea. Okay, on the Day of Wolves, the Dream Wolf pursues you in your sleep. Yeah. At the end of the cycle, when it's night out for 3 days in a row. Yeah, so you have to find a way to stay awake. I was going to talk about being pursued, and this isn't. Unfortunately, it's difficult to portray this in role-playing games. The idea that the idea of pursuit, of being chased down, but there is a way for us to do it when it comes to fears, when it comes to our dreams and nightmares. For those who don't know, within the Ring of Fire has a very mythological and arcane style of celestial events. So unlike how we have day and night cycles based on gravity and the moon and the turning of the earth and the sun and those positions, instead this is controlled by the gods, and each day has a throne. There are 77 thrones, 77 days in a cycle, and each day has a different day-night cycle, which doesn't correspond through physics. So there's a period of time where there's literally 3 days of solid night. The sun just does not rise. And what a great way to incorporate that with the full moon and the Day of Wolves. Who's to say that in your world, on the Day of Wolves, the sun never rises? It's a full moon for a full 24 hours, and it's all night, which might be the reason why people close their doors and such. Yeah. Mike Mayer says, I like the idea of the abstract damaging terrain like lava, but wolf-based or wolf's den. Absolutely. And let's not forget about using terrain for height and such. I mean, in a rocky terrain, you're going to absolutely have a pack. Some will come at you, I'm going to say waist level, calf, knee level, but there's going to be others that are going to try to circle around to get to the high ground above you and such. And it could be the players are like, you know what, I'm going to scramble up. And that might require, up the muddy hill, might require an athletics check or an acrobatics check. It might get using the, I'm thinking of the very dry landscape of like Arizona and maybe parts of Utah and the Grand Canyon area, New Mexico, where you have rocky outcroppings and terrain where you're running through it like a maze and being chased that way as well. Also, the escalation of the Day of Wolves could be a thing. You see a lone dire wolf, PCs shrug, we're 5th level, no big deal. Okay. And then it escalates. All right, now you see 2. That's 3 more. Okay. Now you see 4. Okay, now there's 7. And it's the doubling, right? 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. And it's like, whoa, we're badasses, but we're not that bad. And instead of just using dire wolves, again, blink dogs, death's head dogs, if I can remember correctly, hellhounds, and any combination thereof. Yeah, it maybe starts to get a lot dangerous with that. Yeah, and Mike Maron bringing up the abstract damaging terrain. That damaging doesn't need to be hit points. It could cause a condition. Um, uh, Incapacitation, grappling, restraining, things of that nature. The pack tackles a player character and uses a push or shoving maneuver to tackle them to drag them into dense foliage, which is air quotes entangling, and the PCs need to get themselves out of it. And you know use the rules we already have. What's the weapon? A net, right? The net has a thing that the wolves use the net to attack the PCs, which isn't really a net. It's just general overgrown foliage and vines or something like that, and they knock them into it. Or there's a spiky ravine that they didn't create it. It just happens to have spiky rocks at the bottom. But what is it? It's a pit trap, and they knock you into it, right? Yeah, using any of those and of course fog, darkness, um, using reframing magical abilities to layer upon the pack, such as the harmonic sounds of sirens and charming effects and fearful effects that some other monsters have. Just give it to them. Just say, you know what? For every 5 wolves, when they bay, it elicits something primal in the back of the head of the player characters. You need to make a wisdom save, right? Something like that. Mike Mayer says in this case, it could be incredibly dense foliage where wolves harass and guerrilla attack and disengage. Hell yeah. Oh, hells yes. And exploiting their non-visual senses, ambush style, and pack tactics. Yes, if they can, of course, they can see very well in the dark. They have, very high senses, and which, by the way, maybe they can smell. Maybe there's something in the territory around them. They can smell um, uh, quicksand, pits of acid, the flowing lava that you mentioned before, the decomposing body of some other monster that, in and of itself, might be dangerous, like I don't know, a dead adolescent purple worm was killed by a pack of wolves that exited the ground, and its internal organs, the acids inside of its own internal organs are an ooze, like a black pudding or yellow mold or something like that. And yeah, sure, it smells horrible. And guess what? The wolf pack knows it too. And they know what to chew and what not to chew, but to knock their prey into it to be consumed by acid because the stomach gland got ripped open or something because it fell upon a spiky rock, and they're using it. And this is just me coming up with story elements out of my ass, but hell's yeah. Um, yeah, Mike Mayer says mechanically, it's just, quote, you take 1d4 piercing damage, yeah, every 30 feet traveled. Hell yeah, why not? And then it's like, the question becomes, do you take the dash action to move 60 feet knowing you're going to take 2d4 damage just to get there? Or do you walk slower and go 30 feet? Or you could give the option, I'll let you, if you move at half speed, 15 feet, even though your base movement is 30, you don't take any damage, but it's going to take you 4 times as long as if you dashed in one act. You know what I mean? And I love that conundrum and putting it in the player's hands. And that's up to you. Here are the rules. Here's the situation. Here are the rules. If you move slowly, you're going to be probably attacked at least 4 times by the pack. But if you run, you could get all the way across the field or something and try to scramble to high ground, et cetera, right? And it could be like thorny bushes, spiky terrain, all that stuff. Shice brings up Opiate, the dream god. Yeah, yeah. Don't do opium at the end of the cycle of the Day of Wolves. Yeah, yeah. No, within the Ring of Fire does has Opiate, the god of dreams, and if imagine the player characters are being harried in their dreams and are unable to take Here we go with the mechanical features. You're unable to take a long rest, a short rest, because every time your eyes close, it's the you know how editors do this in movies and television, where the minute someone gets ready, they lull you with soft music. Person closes their eyes, and then all of a sudden, it's just a cacophony of like dogs barking and growling and everything. And then all of a sudden, the person wakes up in a sweat, like, and then it's like, yeah, you want to take a long rest or a short rest, make a save. Otherwise, your dreams are going to be harried by, I don't know, nightmare wolves or something. You could add the wolf template onto any number of creatures that do things like that. Why not exchange a banshee and just make it a spirit wolf? Why not change what is it, the night hag that feeds off your dreams, and turn that into a nightmarish wolf? What's another great wolf lupine that you could layer over something that isn't a wolf? A sphinx tends to be very intelligent. Maybe somewhere in the dark woods, the wolf can give great knowledge if they are able to make it through the wolf pack. And in the circle in the dark woods is a wolf with, I don't know, black fur with golden tips along its mane, with a mane around its shoulders or something. And it sits there looking at the party. They're harried, they've been bitten, and with a simple sniff and gruff, they heal the party. And it's like, you've made it here. Here's some information for you, right? Also, dare I say, you could make this a dreamscape, so that the players are actually asleep, but they start running from the wolves, because now you have to use your mental stats, your intelligence, your wisdom and charisma. They replace literally your strength, dex, and con as you run from the wolves, because guess what? You don't have any of your stuff. And this is just a dreamscape game that's an aside from that we're just using as an aside as you try to find a haven and find a deep corner to get into, while the day of wolves, where it's literally a full moon for a full 24 hours. Mike says you could reskin a wolf pack of 10 wolves as a wolf swarm. Hell yeah. And use those rules. Of course. Yep. Increase the size to much larger, maybe 50 feet of tree line, but can occupy the same area as the players. Hells yes. And if you really want to do the horde swarm minion kind of thing, I don't know. I'll look it up, but let's go with dire wolf. I'm going to look 5e just as an example. I think it. Let's go to the Forgotten Realms wiki and see what they say. But let's say each wolf has 10 hit points as an example. A wolf swarm might have 100 hit points. And when the fighter attacks and swings the sword and is like, I'm really good, I make 2 attacks and I do 30 points of damage. Well, you just killed 3 of them, right? And so I am here at the. Ooh, did I share it out? Can you see it? No, you can't see it. Come on, no, come on. There we go. Forget about the vacay on the side here. Let's see if I can get rid of it. There we go. So I am here at the ForgottenRealms.fandom.com wiki for the Direwolf. And here we have 2nd edition, 4th edition, and 5th edition. And you can click the image of here up here. Here's 2nd edition, kind of scrawled. Here's the 4th edition image, and then there's the 5th edition Direwolf. And down below, you can click kind of the statistics, kind of like general information, appearance, and history. And then there's, of course, 1st edition, 2nd edition, which is not much of a change. There's a 3rd edition, which adds in things like low light vision, alignment is always neutral, and that kind of such thing. Here we have 4th edition, and it, mounted, unaligned, low light vision. Again, average length 9 feet. And then we get into 5th edition and some of its specific details. And then, of course, down below, we have a description and behavior and such. Now, for those who are like, anti I don't want to harm animals, which I'm that way, right? No one oftentimes we really don't want to kill and harm and gain experience points from needlessly killing things that are just doing what it naturally does, and it is kind of innocent. But for me, my rationalization is that the dire tag is the equivalent of rabies. And with a little bit more of an arcane cursed effect to it. That anything that is labeled dire really can't be saved anymore. It's too late for them. It is bestial, it is cruel, it will haunt you, hunt you, be needlessly brutal, and it is already lost to the world. Its soul is already lost. And so that a dire wolf, a dire bear, a dire snake might have connotations to the lower planes and evil and things of that nature. And to save it, it must be put down. You can't heal it, you know. This even says a dire wolf was an ancient dire version of a gray wolf, being a larger and more primitive or feral breed of wolf. Dire wolves were favored by the gods Goragos, and I believe it's pronounced Ilnival. I've heard that name, but I don't remember Gragos. But anyway, we get into combat. Dire wolves fought in packs, fighting efficiently and surrounding their prey and flanking it to gain an advantage. Their bite was their only weapon, but they could drag a creature to the ground once they had gotten a hold of them. And I think this part about drag a creature to the ground and get a hold of them using tactics and such that can really start to change the dynamic of change the dynamic for player characters would be to have them grapple, push, shove the player characters into other dangerous situations. Mike continues on to say, even further, the hit points are just an abstraction of health. So maybe the wolf swarm doesn't die at 0 hit points. They just lose the will to fight and whimper away, tails between their legs. Absolutely. And this, of course, also deals with, guess what? Dungeon masters out there and game masters, we get the role play. Now, there's no rule in the game that says if I take a lighted torch and swing it around, that wolves are afraid of fire. Rules as written, there's no rule about that. But we know, because of our own human experiences, and of course, rationally, that these monsters are in our world that we're adventuring around would be scared of something like that. Maybe that's how human beings are able to survive. Maybe they hold up, they carry torches and the wolves stay away from it. Or maybe they burn or have the smell of wolfsbane that they carry around their neck and they smell it. Like there might be some kind of way for the players to alleviate this kind of danger. And why not let the player characters do it? And like Mike Marin was talking about the abstraction of health, like you said, it doesn't kill them, but it drives them away. It breaks apart the swarm to shatter them, or it's the morale issue, right? Hey, if you bloody the group, if you take them down to half hit points, they'll break and pack tactics won't work any longer. And the player character's like, woo, because that advantage on attacks is really hurting us, right? Allow them role play the situation and allow the players to benefit from that if they're very smart about what they're doing. Shai says, thanks for explaining that. I had always assumed that a dire wolf was just rabid or simply really big. So I was guilty of committing the sin of assuming shit. No. Don't, I'm not correct. I'm using that as I'm the source of consensus, right? It doesn't mean I'm correct. It just means that that's how I look at it. So if I want to incorporate a demon bear in the world, I would incorporate slobbering, rabid monsters in the world and have the player characters not feel guilty about killing the damn things. The rangers, the druids, the people, maybe even session 0, you talk to your players and they're like, or the session 0 doesn't need to be first. It could be, X card, raising the hand. Can we pause a minute? Like, I don't really like animal cruelty. And you explain it this way, like, hey, listen, these animals are innocent, but they've already been afflicted. They've already been demonized in the literal sense. They've already been the hag out in the dark woods has already fed them her hag's milk or something, or they fed upon, I don't know, the black nectar that grows in the dark woods, and anything that consumes the black nectar turns its soul, evil. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, Shai says, oh, okay, good. But your take on Dire is way cooler. But giving your PCs rabies is kind of cool too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I I think there's a link between that mythologically and culturally, right? Like in real life, being bit by a rabid dog or wolf or something's not a good thing. The cold sweats, the infection, the maybe the strange behavior. Maybe that's where we get our idea of lycanthropes and werewolves. And again, werewolfing. Okay, so we've come towards close to the end, and I want to talk about wolf packs in again in the unsung hero. So some of our story elements here could be wolves, wolf packs, werewolves. Maybe the Day of Wolves is where the werewolves that exist in your world gather together. Or anyone who's ever been afflicted by it for any reason, today's the day they transform. And what a great way for maybe a player that's not able to join the group too often. It's like, I need a character. And you as a dungeon master go, I'm not even going to make a character. Take the werewolf stats and you just play that character. Or one of your NPCs becomes something else. Yeah. Like Mike Marin says, hell, just replace the word dire with terror. They can be hag summoned or just illusory. Yep, absolutely. Why not? Who's to say that on the Day of Wolves that there really are no wolves out there? It's all the fear in our heads. And it side note, it's where dragons come from, right? We fear things and our fear makes it real. And so we fear predators, wolves, bears, tigers, lions. We fear snakes, lizards, insects. We fear fire, electricity, and dragons kind of are those kind of things and combined together. But wolves by themselves, canines, I think these pack predatory animals out in the wild are pretty damn scary. But also, we domesticated them. Huh. Isn't that a weird conundrum, right? As human beings, we're crazy and dumb, but we're badasses too. And to take canines and lupines and felines and domesticate them, or maybe, just maybe, the wolves domesticated us. Huh. Maybe that's an issue. And here's where the stories can come in. What if an NPC is afflicted by lycanthropy and they become a lycanthrope, a werewolf? Or maybe the werewolves that the PCs have been trying to murder kill this entire time are kind of innocent. Or the affliction that's been creating on the Day of Wolves brings it together and culminates into, I don't know, a cult that's part of this wolf, a cult like, combination cult, cleric, druidic, out there in the wild. And this is where they've come together and gathered from many reaches around the region, and they're going to take out the city. They're going to kill everybody and drive them out and turn it back into a feral world, because if they don't, the walls of the city state will be completed, and the humans might spread to our world, and the player characters need to stop this. And that could be a story where they get there and they realize, damn, they kind of have a point. Maybe the humans have been poisoning our natural landscape with these black flowers that have been terrorizing our natural hounds into these dire wolves and such. Also, who's to say that they're like in White Wolf? Who's to say that we think of the dire wolves being a monolith, but maybe they aren't. Maybe there's a difference between the hellhounds and the winter wolf tribes or clans or something like that. Maybe there is a difference between the blink dogs or the good ones, and the PCs didn't even realize that. And then there's the death hounds, which are the bad ones, and realize that they're just spreading disease because there's there's a wolf pack. Let's get to the wolf pack here, right? Where you might, um, side note, here's the mechanical features of what I mean about the wolf pack. The wolf pack as a bit as the big bad evil is a great idea because you can really twist and turn the interactions with the player characters. One of my favorite wolf packs I've used plenty of times was there was a Medusa. She was the head of her pack, and she had a bodyguard who was a an ogre who had a little bit more intelligence than you normally think of. And but the ogre was like her bodyguard. It was like her right hand man. And the ogre had um, a displacer beast as a pet, even though the displacer beast basically made the ogre his pet or her pet. But there was a displacer beast, and it was the three of them. And then they also had hobgoblins that were like their shock troops. And then the hobgoblins used variations of goblins, kobolds, uh, fey creatures, and things like that. And together they made a wolf pack. And what I mean by a wolf pack is taking 3 to 5 disparate classic monsters that basically ones you understand, some of your favorite, and putting them together in a pack, a family, whether by blood or by relationship, like a nuclear family, and they each support each other, even as bad guys. So a classic one is undead, right? A lich, a vampire, zombies, maybe a couple of ghosts, and a banshee, plus maybe a wraith and white combined together. We have a lizard-like people together. You could have lizard folk combined with dragonborn, combined with naga, combined with yuan-ti. These weird, almost piratey like cast-offs that are put together as a wolf pack, and together they operate. Shape changers are great. Werewolves plus you get a couple of werewolves plus a druid and a few acolytes, plus you gather what's something else, forestry. Maybe you add on 1 or 2 class features from, say, the ranger onto some orcs that are out there in the wild, or maybe some gnolls as well. Riding, maybe they have pets or they ride on the back of wargs, right? You can add these together, and when the players just assume dire wolves, they're wrong. Maybe there's something else, especially if one of those shape changing half man half wolf things, using its crooked staff, swirls it in the air, and all of a sudden the fears that the players have become real. The first player gets attacked by giant spiders because that's what they fear, and then the second player has to make a saving throw where they fall down an endless pit because they're afraid of heights, and then another player is so on and so forth. Mike says a wolf or werewolf-based society, but they're nomads of time, not space, and only appear on a 24-hour full moon. Yeah, they take over an existing town or camp all at once. They are precursored by howling omens and leave only wolf pack destruction in their wake. Yeah, for them, it's only been a day, but for us, it's been a year. They just happen to return back again 24 hours. Or maybe it's been part of their territory all along. The fact that we've moved in, and listen, humanity's pretty stupid. Um, the werewolves could say, never live here. This is our territory. We come back every season, every day of the wolf. And the humans go, okay, we'll listen to you. And 3 hours after they leave, they go, well, they won't be here for a year. Why don't we build a city? And everyone sitting around goes, I don't see any wolves. Let's build a city here. And then they come back and get attacked. And they go, we told you. And of course, what do the humans go? I didn't think this would happen. I say that because we human beings live in places, myself included, in places weather is as irregular as we think weather is. It's very normal. We have people who live on the coastlines that get hit by tsunamis and storms. We have people that live in earthquake zones and forest fire zones and mudslide zones and flood zones. I'm looking at me, Ohio Valley, and we still live here, right? So humans wouldn't leave necessarily, or wouldn't think that there's danger from these pack of werewolf extended family that keeps attacking and driving them away from the city. especially if there's a resource that people want. So Mike says, oh, here we go. Yeah, and the precursor of the howls, I like that because you again the foreshadow. You don't have to have the players automatically make a saving throw, but you could say, "Oh, you guys take a long rest," but I'm letting you know now, the howling of the wolves has really disrupted your sleep. No, 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 you've gained everything back, but this long rest, you don't know. Matter of fact, you're almost damn sure that the next day, day of wolves, you're probably not going to get a good night's rest. You know, Shai says, "Okay, DJ DBJ, I'm out. Off to the first Shai Squad show since forever. Oh, cool! Hey, congratulations! Break a leg. Catch you next time. You're going to stream on the weekend? No, Monday through Friday, maybe. Yeah." Mufa says, I have family moving to Florida of all dumb places to go next week. Oh man. Hey Mufa. Yeah, Florida. Florida's it's its own um for those who are unfamiliar, Florida has a culture of open and honest, shall I say, law enforcement and newsworthy stories. And so Florida seems to be the place where the crazies live. And not that it doesn't happen other places, but when news stories get slow, the media will go down to Florida and find these stories because they hand that information out like candy. And so people get it's the ad libs of titles for why people got arrested, and it's hilarious. Hilarious. Shai says, good. It's going to be a fun start to the week on Monday. Happy weekend and best regards. Thank you so much. And to you too as well. You too. And by the way, for you guys who are newsworthy stories, nice use of them there. Yeah, newsworthy. Are they newsworthy? Yeah. Oh man, Mufa's like, yeah, every fantasy world needs its version of the Florida man. That the let's see if there's it's let me type that in. Florida man. Let's see if that's a thing. There it is, Wikipedia. I'm gonna share. All right. Oh my god. Oh no, it won't. Come on, activate. Yeah, the Florida man is a thing. It's a real thing. Yeah. Florida Man is an internet meme first popularized in 2013. I would have thought it would be sooner than that. I mean, older than that. Anyway, referring to an alleged prevalence of men performing irrational, maniacal, illogical, delusional, insane, and absurd actions in the U.S. state of Florida. Yeah. Florida Man. Yeah. And there's always a Florida Man thing. Oh my God. Before the creation of the meme, the state of Florida has already garnered a colorful reputation on the internet, with the social aggregation site Fark hosting a Florida content tag in the years before the Twitter account of at the underscore Florida Man appeared. After the creation of the account, social sites such as Reddit and Tumblr, subreddit, r/Florida Man, stuck in a bucket. Yep. And really, it's because it's not because people are crazy in Florida. It's just that news sites aggregate information from Florida because they have an extremely open cycle of news, and so it's pretty fun. Florida Man equals barbarian chieftain. Even worse than that. It's an even worse. It's like barbarian bard, I guess. With barbarian bard, wild sorcerer would be the Florida Man. Yeah. Mufa says, quote, Florida Man hit with back taxes after being victim of necromancer rising from the dead. Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's some pretty crazy type. You know what I'm gonna type in top, I'll say 20 Florida Man headlines. There we go. All right, let's see. Mary's 9 greatest Florida Man headlines of all time. Here we go. 30 craziest headlines that have kept the meme meme going. Yeah, we're at the end here. I'll put this up. Oops, I gotta share. Did it work? Yes. All right. So anyway, Shicey, I know you gotta go. Best Florida man. Let's see. Nope. Florida man. No, go away. Oh, damn pop ups. Florida man breaks into house, cleans it, and leaves behind origami. Florida man blows a .339 blood alcohol level and gets a DUI on a golf cart. I love how. I love how it began. If okay, it's like a haiku, right? So it begins with a Florida man does something, and then we go with the middle of the story, right? So a Florida man does blows, runs, found, whatever, and then a .339 blood alcohol level, and then the story ends with it ends with the yeah shit. It ends with the tag that's from like ad libs. Let's see. A Florida man flees cops so fast that some of his clothes come off. So police identify him with DNA from his sock. Florida man tries to walk out of store with a chainsaw stuffed down his pants. So here you go. Yep. Florida man tries to walk out of store with a chainsaw stuffed down his pants. Ad libs. I'm telling you. Florida man arrested for calling 911 after his cat was denied entry into a club. Florida man arrested for crashing car into a mall. Says he was trying to time travel. Florida man say a Florida man, police say a Florida man with no arms and no legs is armed and on the run. Holy shit. Florida man impersonating a police officer pulls over real cops. Florida man calls 911 after PlayStation stopped working. Florida man and his pet chicken develop social media fame. Florida man arrested for trying to get alligator drunk. Florida man fights off an alligator that attacked his dog. Now that's pretty common, all things considered. That's not really a headline. Florida man arrested after botched castration surgery. Florida man arrested. Okay. After botched, robbery? Nope. Castration surgery. Florida man in Largo tells police, just take me to jail. Florida man busted with guns and baby alligator in trunk. Unique piece of evidence helps police finger Florida man in robbery. I don't know if you want to use that word. Florida man driving a car with 2 missing tires blames it on paranormal activity, and so on, and so on. Oh my God. This talking about wolves turn this into a Florida man stream. But there's a reason why we get this. So you know what? We're going to do an episode of the Day of the Florida Man. Why not? Let's do something strange. Now I don't know when it's going to come up. I'll try to leave a list, but yeah, the Florida Man, pretty hilarious and pretty idiotic. So circling this back, let's see if I can summarize this because the two are disparate. Summarizing this back is, of course, the Day of series is for us to draw in, to be inspired by something. And on its surface, sometimes our inspirations are very surface level. Oh, the Day of Wolves. I guess I'm just going to throw wolves into my game. But maybe not. Maybe wolves represent our fears, our desires, our unmitigated animal instincts. It draws us out emotionally. Maybe it's our dreams and nightmares. And the people on the Day of Wolves, they know they will be overcome by the thing that pursues them in their minds. Maybe those thoughts bring about the wolves that are at the gates. And of course, you can't have fantasy and adventure without having dire wolves and wargs and all these bestial monsters. And taking some of our famous monsters and using them, and then let's reflavor them a little bit. You know, give them Could you make a humanoid creature, just use the stat block and turn it into a wolf? Why the hell not? So yeah, thought we'd do this. We could go on this for hours and hours and hours. But if you've been here long enough, please uh, do the kind thing. Like, share, subscribe. Stay tuned. Uh, be inspired. And if you have any great ideas or prompts, leave them down below. I read them all, and I'm in it. I am. My mind fuel is topped off with everything that you guys have. So if you're like, oh damn, the show's ended, it's 5 hours later, I got this idea. Sunday comes around and you're like, oh, you know what? Just leave it down below and it might be a prompt and we'll just do it one day. So guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Everyone, have a great weekend. Peace and love.